everybody, to episode 2 of Couchside Sports. As always, I'm Matt Parnell, joined alongside by my co-host, Lucas Fanslaw. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you doing?
Not too bad. We got a new setup here in the studio, so to speak.
Totally. We finally figured it out, guys.
We figured it out.
About 3 hours of production later and time wasted, and here we are.
Here we are. So we did record episode 2 already after the NFL draft, just a heads up. But because of some technical difficulties, we're going to go ahead and re-record that and upload it for you folks. And we also will touch on the NHL playoffs. Obviously, we're pretty much halfway through round 2 now, so we'll have a look at that and maybe a little preview of what's to come in the playoffs. You want to kick it off with the NFL draft, Lucas?
I would absolutely love to. Two teams got my attention.
Who are you talking?
Big time home team Seahawks draft.
Yeah, it was good.
And I know I'm not just a fucking fanboy because a lot of talking heads are talking about it.
Yeah, a lot of A's for the Seahawks in the draft, and I'm so happy. And we talked about this last week, but I'm so happy they did not take a QB in the first round.
Absolutely,
especially with the whole Shadur Sanders situation going on there.
Yeah,
that is the last thing the Seahawks needed.
Absolutely, especially in a QB weak year. I mean, if you want to talk it quickly, so we obviously got Sam Darnold for 3 years. 33 million a year, but it's very incentive ridden.
Right.
And each year we have the opportunity to cut him. So I'm very glad that the Seahawks didn't reach when they didn't have to. Obviously, a lot of people are banging on the drum. We got to get a fucking offensive line. We got to get an offensive line. We haven't had an offensive line since like 2017. So taking a guard at number 18, just a huge fan favorite pick. Like, that's what everyone wanted.
Yeah, and you're talking Gray Zabel, and I think the thing that I noticed with Gray Zabel was he's played every position on the line except for center, I want to say.
He did play center.
He did play
college.
Center. Okay, so yeah, he's got that lineup position flexibility, which is huge when it comes to injuries.
Yeah,
and and the Seahawks, like you said, they need help on the offensive line. He looks like he's going to be a stud for the Seahawks moving forward. And the nice thing is I know he signed his contract this week, and I think it was $4 million cap hit per season. So a very friendly contract to have someone on the line for 4 years.
Totally.
So that's going to be huge for the Seahawks,
especially in one of their premium positions. John Schneider always tries to find diamonds in the rough and try and get cheap deals, and you totally understand that train of thought. But
yeah.
End of the day, it doesn't always work that way. So very, very happy that we got Gray Zabel. Now we just need to lock up Charles Cross on the left side,
right,
left tackle. The way tackle contracts are going, the sooner you sign them for the longer, the better.
Right.
Just get that out of the way, dude.
Yeah.
Set tackles are going to be making ridiculous money a couple years down the road.
Yeah, let's not put that one off too far.
But yeah, no, just excellent pick to start it off for the Hawks. Big fanboy pick over here. Round number 2, Nick Emanwori. Quite the last name. Glad I didn't butcher that one. This guy's an absolute freak. The fact he fell out of the first round is an absolute miracle. Ironically, his closest comp pick is DK Metcalf, but at safety.
Right.
He's a super raw player, but his athletic traits are just insane, out of this world. And that's the exact reason 4 or 5 years ago, no, maybe even a bit longer, but either way, DK fell to the second round, I think pick number 64, and the Hawks picked him up.
Right.
So, traits like that, you just can't you just can't pass up.
No, especially in the second round. If you're not spending a first rounder on a guy that maybe doesn't have like the reps, the football reps, so to speak, but you're drafting a guy that's a freak. Like I mean, they got him. Was it 32 overall or something like that? So it must have been the first pick in the second round.
35, third pick in the second round.
Yeah, so you've got a guy there, early second round pick, who is an animal, and you can't teach those athletic traits. It's a lot of stuff that's based on genetics, like you said with DK Metcalf, right? Like if this guy can come in and learn and watch film, he could be a stud for them at the safety position.
Totally. But no, very exciting pick. And Mike McDonald, in recent interviews, he's been talking about, people have been asking him, what are you going to do with him? What are you going to do with him? They're considering him at every single position, from safety to corner to even third safety coming into the box to play a linebacker.
Kind of play linebacker. Interesting.
Quite literally. So with a mind like Mike McDonald, it's very interesting to see what he'll come up with.
Yeah. Just one last thing on Emanwari there. Did they trade up to get him?
They did.
Right.
They did. I think they gave up a third to go get him.
Right.
And then swap seconds,
right. So not too bad.
No, definitely not. And with giving up a third, that's absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing in the big picture for what you can get out of this guy. And same with Jalen Milroe, but we'll talk about him in a second.
Yeah.
With our second pick in the second round, Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah.
Absolute monster of a tight end. The only reason he fell to the second round is because he's dealt with injuries.
Right. I have it listed here as he was actually the third-ranked tight end in this draft.
Yeah.
So it could be a very sneaky pick.
Oh, totally. And yeah, the only reason he fell is due to injuries. So it's one of those picks where if all is fine and dandy and nothing goes wrong in the world, like absolutely wonderful pick. We just got to make sure he gets healthy. So as long as he can maintain his health, he should be very productive. And tight end was a bit of a surprise pick for the Seahawks because we already have Noah Fant and A.J. Barner. A.J. Barner, a 6th-round pick last year, was a very big surprise this year. He had like 3 touchdowns, 700 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
So very, very big surprise. But with having 2 very, very serviceable tight ends, with Noah Fant even being a top 15 tight end, it is surprising they took it. But with our new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, he runs a lot of 12-man personnel. So he's going to be utilizing those tight ends a lot. And I think these guys will really help for our run game. Well, because you look at Fant and Barner, and on the blocks they're nice and chippy. They're not scared to get dirty.
Yeah.
You look at
they're not just a receiver.
No, totally. They're definitely more than happy to put their hand in the dirt. And you look at like the Super Bowl era, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
He got all pissy whenever he had to block.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
One thing I will say too, just touching on the tight end position for the Seahawks, is I believe Noah Fant is coming up on the last year of his deal this season. And we did talk about this last week as well, but it was just something to note when I was reading a lot of the post-draft analysis for the teams. Was there was some thought that maybe Elijah Arroyo and is it Barner? Excuse me.
Yeah,
they can kind of take the reins moving forward. I mean, after this season, Barner will have 2 seasons under his belt, and you don't have to go and re-sign Noah Fant. Obviously, a bigger cap hit. I mean, it'll all depend on how Elijah Arroyo does and who's available next season in free agency. Because if you can kind of bump those guys up to the 1-2 tight end position and then let Fant go and then sign a veteran as a third, maybe at a cheaper price than Fant, it kind of, like I said, it gives them that cap flexibility, which isn't something that the Seahawks are that worried about, but maybe they want to make a big splash moving forward.
Totally, and like you said, with Fant coming up on the last year of his contract, I believe he's going to be turning 28.
He's going to want that big deal.
Yeah, he's only got 1 or 2 more contracts left in him, so you can't blame the guy. He's going to want to get paid, and with the way John Schneider values tight ends, I don't think he's going to be willing to cough up the money, especially if every 2-3 years he can just keep bringing the stud in, bringing the stud in, and Barner is quite the surprise. So,
and watch for Fant to have a big season this year, contract year. Like he could have a big year, and then maybe he's getting a decent paycheck from someone. Because I feel like that's one thing with tight ends in the NFL is there's that upper echelon class of the Kelseys and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that mid to low range, there's not a lot of depth there in the league, I feel like. And if you can have a good season, especially receiving the ball, catching touchdowns, those kind of things, a team will go out there and they'll pay you. Because they're not getting a Kelsey, right? They're not going and getting Andrew, is it Andrew? What is it? Mark Andrews from
Yeah.
Baltimore, right? Like you're not catching those guys on free agency.
No, totally. And Kyle Peacock, someone I listen to, super smart guy. Shout out to Locked On. He always says tight ends most undervalued position in the NFL. George Kittle, 49ers.
Yeah.
He just signed his deal last week, I think, and it makes him the highest paid in the NFL, $20 million.
Wow.
And the reason you can't undervalue that is look at everything tight ends do for you. They block, they do all the dirty work. And at the same time, you get a high-end tight end like Kittle. He's getting as much production nearly as a wide receiver one.
Yeah, and they're getting those first downs.
Totally.
Right? They're running those in routes. They're running those slants across the middle.
Yeah.
They're going to the scary, the dirty areas, if you will.
Totally.
And it's huge if you can just be like, I'm throwing this to my TE1 and we're getting a first down here. We're third and long.
Yeah.
Who's it going to? It's going to the tight end.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be a big year for Fant. I mean, he's kind of had his ups and downs. He was a pretty high-rated guy coming out of when he got drafted by Denver.
Totally.
So it's not like he's not just some scrub out there. So it'll be interesting to see how his year goes and what that new contract looks like.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll basically find out if Clint Kubiak likes him or not, if
That's
he's
right.
going to use it.
All right, moving on to pick number 3.
We got
The
pick
big one.
Number 4.
Or 4, excuse me, yes.
Round 3, number 4, Milroe. This is a wonderful pickup for a third-round pick. The guy is raw as fuck. He has blatant accuracy issues, but his athleticism and skill set is off the charts. And if they can refine him to be an accurate pocket quarterback while still having the scramble athleticism and whatnot, almost like a Jalen Hurts style, it'll be beautiful. And one thing that makes me have faith in him is Nick Saban was pounding the drum for him. A lot of people were pounding the drum for them, and they were saying that he comes from a military background. Both of his parents were Marines. He has the work ethic of first one in, last one out.
Right.
And so, you look at the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. Last year, he had a 46.7 pass completion rate. Absolutely brutal. And if you talk to anyone who is around the Colts organization, they will say he does not put in the work to fix that. It's a fixable thing, but you just have to find someone to put in the work.
That's right.
And I do think we found that. And like I was saying, back to the Sam Darnold contract, we have the option to cut him after every year while absorbing basically very little dead money. So that's a very good contract to have while you have someone growing and rising behind him. So,
yeah, it's an exciting pick. I'm happy they picked a QB this draft. I know it wasn't the deepest QB draft like you were saying. It was kind of a softer one, but nice to at least kind of get someone in the system.
Totally.
In a year or two, you find out it's not working. And this doesn't mean that the Seahawks, if they struggle this year, don't go and take a QB next season.
No.
It's just adding that extra layer of protection, and possibly finding that, diamond in the rough, that next Russell Wilson, if you will, right?
Oh, totally. And random fun fact, in John Schneider's, I think it's 26 years of being the GM of the Seahawks, this is only the 4th quarterback he's ever taken. Wow. Yeah, so that shows what he's got to see in a guy.
Yeah.
And with obviously one of the other 4, Russell Wilson.
Right.
Russell Wilson. So, John Schneider, knock on wood, baby. Let's hope this turns out.
Fingers crossed.
Totally. Anyways, moving on. Round 5, number 142, Riley Mills, defensive tackle. Very solid pick for the 5th round. I believe he tore his Achilles last year, I want to say, which is why he fell so far. So once again, back to the Elijah pick. As if he can stay healthy, this will be a steal of a pick.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no complaints here. He'll most likely have a low production rookie season because of his injury, but if he can stick around for a couple year and get healthy and get back on the depth chart, I think we should see something out of him. And ironically, same with Torrey Horton. The Seahawks definitely need to stretch the field with the wide receiver group we got. We got Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, and Martez Vantez Scantlin. Torrey Horton, another hurt player who fell for that sole reason. I forget what his injury was, but he's a blazing fast guy. Absolute field stretcher. So in a year, if Cooper Kupp, phases out, he proves to be old or whatnot. Martez definitely is not young either. I think he's 30. We definitely need some young guys in there, and Smith and Jigba can't just put the team on his back.
No,
especially with losing Tyler Lockett and DK. We definitely need to buffer that room. And then most exciting pick of the draft, fullback Robbie Oots.
We talked about this last week. You gotta love the fullbacks.
Oh, totally. He has a mullet, for fuck's sakes, dude. Like, that is the most fullback look, but that just makes you happy to see a fullback out there, dude. Let's run some I formation. Let's fucking shove it up. Then we got Kenny Walker. We got a revamped O-line. Like that's exactly what we need. So maybe not the most important pick, but just a fun pick, and damn well Clint Kubiak is going to use him.
Yeah.
Brian Cabeldew. Another guard depth spot. Him and skipping over to round 7, Mason Richmond. They're basically battling for George Fant's spot, and George Fant was our swing tackle, swing guard. He could play every position on the line. Mm-hmm. So we'll hope that those guys can fill those roles well. And then Martinez, round 7, 223 running back. In a running back rich draft, you had to pick him up.
Yeah.
There was, I believe, 26 running backs rated with a draftable grade, and a normal number is high single digits, low double digits.
That's Damian Martinez?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him here. It says he averaged 4.5 yards after a contact last season in college, which ranked 4th.
The only reason he fell so far is he had some weird and ineligible shit where he transferred and he had to redshirt for a year, and he transferred again and he had to redshirt for a year, and for some reason he was ineligible for like 4 of the 5 years of his college career. Mm-hmm. So considering what he was able to do on 1 year, a guy who doesn't have a lot of tape, will give him the ball a couple carries in preseason, and maybe he can be the third back on the depth chart.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Totally.
When you get to the 7th round, those are the guys you're looking for. Someone, hey, can you just crack the lineup?
Oh, literally. Like, if from Cabeldew, Martinez, Richmond, and Ricky White, I'd be surprised if even 2 of them were on the depth chart.
Yeah.
So either way, Martinez, if he can make the roster as a third down and back, that would be fantastic. Another swing pick for John Schneider, but we'll see if it hits. And then Ricky White, UNLV. The only thing I'll say about him is he had pretty decent numbers in college, but never once did he have a good quarterback throwing to him.
Mm.
So the guy has fucking hands, dude. Like he can catch anything that's going his way, and I honestly think he was just hampered because he never had any good quarterbacks thrown to him. So once again, if he can make the roster as a special teamer, see what he develops into, that would definitely be a nice addition for the Seahawks. But overall, really solid draft. I'd be willing to give them an A-. The only reason I wouldn't give them an A is because I would have liked to see a higher round wide receiver there. But besides that, I really don't have any complaints. Just a fantastic draft.
And that's what NFL.com has them, is an A-.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Fuck, we're on the same wavelength.
We're on the same page. Let's go.
And then
we got 2 more teams to talk about. Another good draft, and then we're gonna touch on someone who maybe didn't do so well that I think everyone probably knows who we're talking about.
We'll start it off with some praise of the Commanders. Basically, their whole draft was luck. They didn't trade up once. They didn't have a lot of picks, and all these guys fell to them.
5 picks only.
Only 5 picks.
And their first rounder was 29th overall.
Totally. And with their first rounder, they picked up Connerly Jr., but obviously with how the NFC game went last year, everyone kind of knew the Commanders were going to look to add some O-line depth.
Yeah.
And they did. They traded, I believe, a third rounder for Laramie Tunsil.
Yes.
And then picked up Connerly Jr. So new offensive tackles. They got Cosme coming back at guard. And then I believe they added another guard. I'm blanking on who, but that's 4 new guys to their O-line. They're going to have a revamped O-line this year.
Brandon Coleman?
Coleman, yes. Give Jaden Daniels some time in the pocket, man, considering what he was able to do last year. Buddy's going to be a fucking superstar, so help your boy out.
Yeah.
Round 2, pick 29 in round 2. They picked up Trey Amos, another total fall. He played with Ole Miss his last year, but he was first team all SEC.
Right.
3 interceptions, started 13 games, 50 tackles, so right away a starting cornerback who they need. They traded for Lattimore last year, so you can project him and Lattimore to be their starting cornerbacks, but either way, cornerback's one of those positions, if you take it high, as long as you don't reach, never a bad thing.
Right.
You can never have too many of those. Round 4, Jalen Lane. They definitely needed some wide receiver help. Friggin' Terry McLaurin couldn't carry everyone. But in 2024...
He was their only big play receiver, it felt like.
Literally, and they had Eckler as well, right, for running back?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and because the year before when he was with the Chargers, he was a total receiving threat.
Yeah.
Like, he had... It almost felt like he had more receiving than rushing yards every single game, and then he went to the Commanders, and I feel like he definitely had a down season with the catching, which he was known for. But either way, round 4 picking up Jalen Lane, I feel like that's a wise play. Just try and get some depth in the wide receiver position. Maybe they'll trade for a solid number 2 this year, and Lane can fight for wide receiver number 3, 4. But if they get something out of him, that would be huge. He actually led his conference and team with 69 receptions.
Wow.
So a reliable receiver. We'll just see if he has the athleticism to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, Austin Eckler last season, just to give you an update here, targeted 41 times, 35 receptions, had 366 yards. That's a career low for him.
Gotcha.
That being said, previously he had been targeted quite a bit more. Just even 2 seasons ago with LA, he had 127 targets in the season. That's the year that he had 700 plus yards, I believe, and 5 tutties. He didn't even have a touchdown for receiving last year. So
wow.
And his rushing yards obviously weren't the greatest there last season as well. Only 360 yards on the ground.
Yeah, definitely a down year. Fantasy owners were crying last year.
Big time.
They saw what he did with the Chargers, and then they got burned.
Yeah.
I guess Daniels was too good to dump the ball off.
That's right.
That's what that says.
Yeah.
And then quickly to wrap up the draft, Kane Madrano, round 6 linebacker once again.
Yeah.
If he can make the special teams unit, huge pickup.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that the Commanders didn't reach for a linebacker in a very linebacker-weak draft. There was really considered only 2 or 3 starting caliber linebackers. So wait until the later rounds. They re-signed Wagner to a 1-year deal, and I believe they still have Louvu as well.
Right.
So it makes sense to draft a linebacker with Wagner and Louvu getting older, but I'm really glad they didn't reach on it. And
as a Seahawks fan and a Commanders fan, seeing Bobby Wagner on the Commanders is amazing.
You get the best of both worlds for his career.
That's right.
And you don't have the sadness of just seeing him leave.
Yeah, exactly.
You see him leave to greener pastures.
Yeah.
Round 7 to wrap up the draft, Merritt.
Yeah, Krosky Merritt, I believe it was, right? Ja'Cory.
Running back. Yeah.
Elusive back.
Nothing wrong with taking a swing in the 7th round in a running back rich class if they get a special teamer out of him.
Exactly.
Nice pick.
All right. Now for the big one here. The Cleveland Browns.
Tell me.
Now they didn't have on NFL.com, they didn't have the worst draft. It was rated as a B+, so not terrible. But for me, it was a bit ridiculous. The fact that they took Gabriel in the 3rd round, and then they also picked up Shadur in the 5th round, Sanders that is, while already having 3 other quarterbacks, I believe, on the roster.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on their draft? We can go through them pick by pick, but I'm excited to talk about the Sanders situation.
You want to just get Sanders out of the way?
Might as well.
Biggest talking point.
Yeah, round 5.
What do you think happened?
I think maybe Dion made a call.
Yeah.
I've seen some things going on online, just talking about the ownership there in Cleveland, and maybe it's possible that the owner just called up the management, was like, "Hey, take this kid," and to me that you're going to sell a bunch of shirts, you're going to bring in some more fans this season, kind of makes things a bit more interesting.
That's literally my thoughts exactly.
Yeah.
It's a ticket seller pick.
Yeah.
And I bet you he'll make the roster as a third quarterback.
Yeah.
Just so people can go to the game and say they saw him.
Exactly. The funny thing too with him is like the amount of hype behind him. I mean, he was ranked as I think the second best quarterback in the draft for a while, but there's obviously such baggage that comes with drafting Shedeur Sanders. And we talked about this last week as well, but the fact that, he was showing up to practice in his Bentley in college. He was, he's got like, 6-figure like necklaces or chains. He's wearing all this expensive jewelry, and he was the man in Colorado. His dad's the head coach. Like,
it's just like daddy.
Yeah, it's going to be exactly. The thing with Dion is he was a hell of a player, and he earned that. And Shedeur is maybe in a bit of a situation where, I think a lot of people think like, hey, dude, you haven't done shit yet, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And a funny thing that I saw too was, hey, your QB taken in the 5th round. Well, guess what? That locker you're going to be sitting in, it's going to be next to the trash can in the fridge.
Yeah.
So, you're not. You got to have to put some work in to be the guy. And what I did see on social media today or yesterday is there's this hype going around that he threw an 81.5-yard pass at minicamp. Did you see that at rookie minicamp? So apparently he broke Baker Mayfield's 75-yard pass. But you watch the video, and I swear to God, it doesn't look anything longer than a 40-yard pass. It's a nice pass. Don't get me wrong. It's a great throw and a good catch right over the shoulder of the receiver, stretching the field. But come on, 81.5 yards.
That's ridiculous.
Like, what are we doing here, man? And by the time next year rolls around, they're going to be like, hey, do you remember that Shedeur Sanders pass that was 114 yards? You know what I mean?
Passing it out of the end zone.
Yeah, get out of here, dude.
Yeah. My biggest problem with the Shedeur pick is why the fuck would you reach and take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round?
Exactly.
Like
that's why I think the owner might have come in, because it's like, you reach to take this guy, and then all of a sudden you're taking another QB in the 5th round. For what reason? You already got 4 quarterbacks.
Literally. First off, you reached for Gabriel. Probably, if you swap Shedeur and Gabriel, like pick 94 for pick 144, Gabriel would have probably still been at fucking 144, dude.
Yeah.
He was not projected to go in the 3rd round. No one was clamoring for him. And as for Sanders, I think his dad just hyped him up.
Yeah.
You got the whole Sanders hype machine going in full force. And when you have that just blasting advertising, this and that, when you're filling the internet with that, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, like you see so much of it. It's like, yeah, he's a top 5 pick. But you watch any of the people who break down film online, and none of them liked him. He was slow to react. He held onto the ball way too long and took unnecessary sacks, which is one of the more basic things you can avoid as a quarterback,
especially in college.
Oh, totally. But like, I'm not necessarily mad about the pick in round 5. That's
whatever.
Perfect pick for a project quarterback. Give him a couple of years developing. If you get something out of him, diamond in the rough. But just the fact they reached on Dylan Gabriel, I feel like, is more of a waste of a pick.
Well, like, aren't the Browns tired of this drama? Because like they got Deshaun Watson, who's all he's done is brought baggage to the team. Sorry, Deshaun, I know you're listening, but like, it's like, and then you go and you take Shedeur Sanders, the most controversial player in this draft, and I don't think there's a lot of controversy maybe behind the player's skill set. It's more about the circus that comes with him, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
See his draft room?
No, I didn't. I heard about it though. I did read about it. Apparently, it was
Oh.
a crazy party.
Oh, like ice sculptures, 70-inch projector for the NFL draft that was
How
streaming
embarrassing, dude!
all over the room.
Did they come back for
Legendary.
day 3? Was it a 3-day party?
They were there until he got picked.
Oh my god!
They were there until he got picked, dude.
Jesus.
Yeah. It might be just because he's not as popular, but I don't mind Shiloh. He doesn't seem that
Yeah.
flamboyant. Sam,
No,
his
no.
brother,
He seems a little bit more.
down to earth.
Yeah, he does seem to be a bit more down to earth, and the Tampa Bay Bucks signed him as an undrafted rookie, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see what he can do. I will say, I was a little bit bewildered with the trading out of the number 2 spot and trading down.
What for the Travis Hunter?
Yeah, I thought like, if
They,
you got,
should have just picked him.
I think they should have just picked him because they need a receiver there as well, do they not? Like, once Deshaun comes back from injury, who's he throwing the ball to?
Oh, he's not played for them anymore.
You think he's done?
Well, I'm pretty sure they've came out and said that. Like, I forget.
So
how
it's Joe Flacco's room.
100%. I forget how it was either the owner or the GM. I forget how they worded it, but they were basically like Deshaun is not attending any. Like he's not even. They basically said he's not even coming into the facility anymore.
Oh, that's a $250 million contract right there.
Totally.
Crazy. Well, I mean, at least they're going to hopefully get away from that circus, and hopefully Sanders comes in and puts his nose to the grindstone and works out. I mean, I don't hate the Browns by any stretch of the imagination. I actually like when they do well. But
My thing is, if you were this dysfunctional as a coach and GM, what that immediately tells me is the owner's been telling you to do stuff.
yeah,
If anyone who is in the shoes of the Deshaun Watson situation would have got fired, unless it came from the owner. Like,
well, just take a look at the Cowboys.
yeah.
Talk about another dysfunctional franchise, and maybe they'll turn it around this year. I mean, they have all the talent, I feel like, but Jerry Jones can't keep his fingers out of it.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll figure it out this year because Jerry Jones just hired as yes man.
Great.
He hired Brian Schottenheimer.
Oh yeah,
He was their OC,
yeah.
but like the guy's a good OC, but he's had a couple tenures as head coach, and they've gone absolutely terrible. And everyone's looking at the pick like
Yeah.
he came from the organization. He doesn't really have the credentials to be coach. He must have just really got along with Jerry in the interview. Like, he must have just really liked him. And then you got Jerry Jones landing his fucking helicopter on the practice field and shit.
Dallas is
Right
such
in
a
the
shit
middle.
show.
Right in the middle of practice.
Do you want to talk about the Browns draft then? We got the Shedeur
Yeah.
situation out. So pick number 5 overall, first round at Mason Graham.
Good pick.
Yeah. This is
that-
a Myles Garrett pick.
Sorry, what?
Is this to keep Myles Garrett happy?
Maybe. I feel like Myles Garrett is talking money because he said he wanted out of there. He wanted to go to a winning franchise.
Yeah.
And then they offered him some fucking crazy deal, and he just quietly signed it.
Right.
So Myles Garrett is making fucking bank. That's
He doesn't
what
give a
he's doing.
shit.
I honestly just think the Browns, obviously, Cam Ward's off the board.
Yeah.
You're not going to reach on another quarterback.
Yeah.
Make the trenches fucking nasty. You saw it in the Super Bowl, dude, with Eagles without even sending any blitzers. They fucking wrecked the Chiefs' offensive line.
Yeah.
And you seen it in this offseason. That really spurred teams on to go after the trenches. But Mason Graham, a super high motor player, that's something I've heard about him. He'll just keep going and going and going. I've seen a couple clips of him. He'll get caught up in a double team block, and they'll just grab both of them by the collar and slowly, foot by foot by foot, all three of them are moving towards the quarterback. Like, he's not stopping at all. So solid pick. It would have been nicer to get Carter, and like you said, very interesting. They passed up on Hunter.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those situations the Browns have so many holes to fill that
Right.
they need all the capital they can get, so I can understand the pick. What I really like is with the first pick in the second round, they got Carson Schwessiner.
Yeah.
best linebacker in the draft. He got the Butkus Award last year in college for
Right.
best LB in the nation. But
It sounds like they're expecting him to become a leader for them too, which is nice.
totally in this offseason, you've seen a lot of teams re-sign their linebackers, especially with how weak the position has come because the NFL strayed so far from the linebacker position. And so linebackers have become kind of scarce, and you saw it with the Seahawks. They locked up Ernest Jones.
You usually
saw it with
see
the
this
Dolphins. They locked up Dodson.
magnetization
You saw
of
it with
money
the
that
Eagles.
comes
They
in
locked
on the
up
chance
Bond.
because
Like,
everybody knows
Teams
they're good.
once they find a good linebacker, they're just locking him up and keeping it. So definitely a solid addition to their defense, and really any any pick at this height would have been good because they have so many holes to fill.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be
Nothing's amiss.
pretty hard to get it wrong with that. Round 2, Quinshon Judson's 3 picks later. Absolute beast of a linebacker. He was a big part in Ohio State winning their natty. I know because I took his over and it fucking hit, so big shout out to Quinshon.
Yeah, apparently he's got some comparisons to Nick Chubb.
Oh, just a total power back, dude. Total power back. So definitely can't be mad about that pickup, and especially with you could say a weaker quarterback room, they'll definitely be relying on the run game.
Right.
Fannin Jr.
That brings me back to those Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb days.
Oh, totally,
Right.
totally.
They're not afraid of doing that.
Back when they had a chance.
Yeah.
Fannin Jr. tight end. I'm pretty sure did Njoku leave this?
Yeah, I
offseason?
think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, Njoku left this offseason, so they definitely needed some tight end depth. Solid pickup. I honestly don't know much about the guy, but judging off of their tight end room, it sounds like a position in need.
Actually, it looks like David Njoku still is playing for Cleveland, so that's sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Either way, get some depth.
Yeah.
They definitely do not have a number 2 tight end, so
Yeah.
you can't be mad about that. Then Dylan Gabriel, like I was fucking talking about, he could have been there at round 5, number 144, but they reached on that. So, questionable pick. I honestly wonder why they didn't just suffer out this year and try and go high next year.
Yeah.
Seaman as tanking's a strategy in the NFL.
Yeah, he had not the greatest. He doesn't have the greatest outlook. I mean, combine-wise, he was fine. He was the 4th-ranked QB on production, 9th-ranked on athleticism.
I mentioned off
So
the top of the
5th
show, this might
overall.
have been the best
But again,
possible
you're
spot
going
if
up
Shedeur
against
Sanders
other
wants
college
the opportunity
players.
to
So,
compete because the
you
depth
know,
chart is so
what does
wide
that
open.
show you that he's
But
the
he was not
9th-ranked QB
one of
in
the first
athleticism?
6 picks for the Browns in this draft. He wasn't even the
Not a
first
good sign. And the
quarterback
fact
in
that
this
they
draft.
took
That was
Shedeur
Dylan Gabriel
after him,
in the
like
3rd
you
round.
said,
What, based on
I'm
what you've
surprised they
been
didn't just
told, was
take
the
Shedeur
reason they decided to go back
in
into that pool,
3rd-round
so to
pick, that
speak,
late
and
3rd-round
take
pick? I
Shedeur
don't think anyone would have been upset about that.
No.
But I mean, let's see what they do. I mentioned this the other week too. Is now that they got 5 QBs, okay, Watson's out. So let's say they have 4. Someone gets an injury in training camp at the quarterback position. I mean, they're going to be calling the Browns.
I mentioned off the top of the show, this
right?
might have been
give
the
me
best
somebody
possible
off
spot
your,
if Shedeur
off your
Sanders wants
roster,
the
and the
opportunity
Browns
to
kind of
compete
have
because
that,
the depth chart is so wide
that
open.
section.
But he was not one of the
kind
first
of
6 picks for the Browns in this
cornered,
draft.
if
He
you
wasn't
will.
even the first
They're
quarterback in
kinda
this
like
draft. That was
farms.
Dylan Gabriel
Yeah, it's exactly.
in the 3rd round.
I'm looking at Shadeur's
What, based on
breakdown
what
for
you've been
the
told,
combine.
was
He
the
actually had a
reason they
worse
decided to go back
athleticism
into
score.
that pool,
He was ranked,
so to speak,
he was
and
ranked
take Shedeur in the
14th in athleticism.
Yeah, Tom, I was told early on
But he was
in
the
the process, he wasn't a
first-ranked
target for
quarterback
them in the
in
first
production.
or even the early 2nd round.
So,
And as
he
we
was
saw,
the
they took
third-ranked
Dylan
quarterback
Gabriel as their
overall,
first quarterback. They did
through
not
the,
expect
through
Shedeur
the
Sanders to
combine
be
and combine
a
the two
Brown until
scores.
Saturday, where he
So,
kept being on the clock.
obviously,
He kept being
a
on the
really
clock.
good,
And then the opportunity was
production
worth
score, but I'm
more than
surprised to see
they
his
thought at that stage. They thought he would have been off the
athleticism
clock
score
sooner. And
ranked 14th,
look, this
I don't
is
know if a lot
lot
of the
people
time
in the
that
decision room.
athleticism
You've got
score
your
does
general
really
manager
mean
Andrew
a
Berry
whole
and
lot
staff, but also
when
the
it comes to
coaches. They decide
quarterbacks,
what
because I
they
think
want
that's
in
where
their
they're,
room.
they're testing
And this
like
was
your
simply a
40-yard,
scenario
they're
where they
testing
did
your
not
jump,
plan to
your
draft
vertical and all
2
that kind of
quarterbacks.
stuff.
I've talked to some of their people in the
it's
building.
quarterback
They didn't have a
position,
lot to
while
say
it is an
about
athletic
the
position,
meeting. I know there's a lot said about
it
Shedeur and how he
requires,
met well,
someone
but they
that
did
can,
like something.
you can't judge someone's accuracy of throwing a ball in the athleticism department when it comes to the combine.
How
How high can I jump? Okay, well, that has nothing to do with me throwing a dart. Right? So.
It's definitely more relevant to some positions.
Correct.
It's like a lineman on the 40-yard
Exactly,
sprint.
yeah. It's like, what are we even doing this? Like,
people only care about the 10-yard split.
yeah, exactly.
Just let me know the 10 you guys can stop after
I'm not
10
watching
yards.
a 315-pounder run 40 yards ever.
Oh, totally. One player, speaking of 40 times, one player I'm about to see is, did you see the D lineman the Bucks picked up late in the draft?
No.
454 pounds.
No way.
Yeah.
454? What is this, a WWE wrestler?
Search up, I think his last name's Lacey.
I'll look him up here. Give me a second.
No, he's a big boy, though. I actually think they might have got him as an undrafted free agent. But
Yeah, okay. They don't have him listed as a draft pick.
no, he's a humongous boy. And considering they already have Via Veda, imagine he makes the roster.
Oh, my God. I can't
Nope.
find him right now, but I'll keep scanning here. Why don't you finish off the draft?
Gotcha. Samson, they take a running back in the 4th round, which I do not understand why you would do after Judkins. I know it's a good running back class, but just seems like a waste of a pick back there. I don't mean to shit on the guy. He was very productive at Tennessee, but I'm not liking that pick. And then round 5, Shadur Sanders. What happened was it was the last pick of the draft. The owner calls the GM. He says, "We're gonna suck this year, but I want to make some money. Let's sell some jerseys."
Yeah.
He made that call 100%. So, good luck to the Browns. It'll be a fun storyline this year. And how much hype is there going to be for the Browns' first preseason game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure we're seeing Sanders in that game, without a doubt.
Totally. So, yeah, either way, I do not like the Browns draft class.
What would you give them as a letter grade?
I'd give them like I'd be willing to say a B, just because they got Mason Graham and Carson Schwessner.
Yeah, and they were able to trade obviously down to get Graham and make some get some capital that way.
Totally. So their picks in round 1 and their 2 picks in round 2, super good picks. It's definitely beneficial picks considering how many holes they have to plug.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they're late round picks where they could have found some good valuable depth pieces. They double dipped on positions they didn't need to or reached. So
Yeah. I have that player for the Bucks, by the way.
Oh, do you?
Desmond Watson, 6'6", 464 pounds. He ran a 5.93 40-yard dash.
Holy
which
fuck.
I feel like is probably still faster than me.
Dude, I'm more hyped for that guy than fucking Shadur.
He hit a vertical jump of 25 inches.
Oh.
Imagine his knees.
Oh,
My
those
God.
ligaments are yelling.
But that being said, he didn't compete in the combine. But if he would have had the top mark for bench press. He had 36 reps.
Damn.
Yeah.
Bro's fucking strong as fuck.
6'6", 464. You should look this guy up, man. He is an absolute animal. I'm excited to actually see this guy. I hope he makes the
I
NFL,
want to see
man.
him in preseason.
He is the heaviest NFL player of all time, beating Aaron Gibson's record combined weight by nearly 100 pounds.
Whew.
So he absolutely demolished that record.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see this kid in high school, man.
I just pulled up an article. It says he's lost 20 pounds since the combine.
Okay.
And he's aiming to lose plenty more so that he can have a chance at fucking making the roster.
Yeah, I mean he's got to lose 100 pounds, bro. Like,
Even if he got down to 400, that would be crazy.
That's crazy.
So shout out Desmond Watson, buddy.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to see this kid's.
Bro, can you imagine him and Vita Vea
Oh my
lined
God.
up next to each other? That would be fucking.
This guy looks like
crazy.
he would probably eat somebody. Like, he is a giant.
I'm just thinking right now they're going to have the best defensive goal line package for 4th and 1.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's a nose tackle, so there you go. Like, of course he's a nose tackle.
So, yeah, shout out to Desmond Watson. We're cheering, brother.
Crazy, man. His Wikipedia page is interesting, guys. I would go and read this if you had a chance. In high school, in his junior year, he was 375 pounds.
Whew. Holy fuck.
A number higher than every defensive tackle in the NFL at the time.
Damn. So he's always been a big boy.
He's been a big kid, except for when he was born, apparently. Watson is one of 6 children. Here's a little fun fact for you. He was the lightest of all 6 children at birth.
No shit.
So maybe he took that personally.
Totally. Totally.
Well, that'll do it for the NFL talk this week. I'm glad we were able to get that draft recap in, even if it was just a bit of a light one. 45 minutes into the episode, so that seems like a good place to break it off there and maybe switch over to the NHL playoffs.
Heck yeah. How, just in general, how are you feeling about it?
Well, okay, so last week when we recorded, it was obviously the end of the first round, and it was a tough night for me because the Avalanche lost to the Stars, and Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick and an assist in that game, combining on all 4 goals. So
you suffered emotionally.
It was painful as an Avalanche fan. When we did our preview for round 2, we had Winnipeg Dallas. I think both of us, picked Dallas to win that series. I was on the fence if St. Louis could have got past Winnipeg. I kind of was leaning towards St. Louis winning that one, but I don't think either of us picked Winnipeg to win that one just based upon how Hellebuck has been playing.
No. Yeah, I remember both of our reasoning was Hellebuck at the time.
The other series in the West is Vegas-Edmonton.
I think I had the Knights taking this one.
We both had the Knights to take this one. Again, it was a goaltending situation. I really didn't think Pickard was going to be the guy. He was, and then he got injured. Stu Skinner's come in now, lost that game the other night, but they won yesterday. And he actually put a shutout out there. The game they lost, it was game number 3. Edmonton was up 2-0 because they won both series, or they won both games in Vegas, and then they lost game 3 in a heartbreaker with the Vegas Golden Knights. I believe it was Riley Smith scoring with 0.4 seconds left to win the game, and it was a bit of a gaffe on. Some people were saying Stuart Skinner. Basically what happened, I don't know, did you see the highlight on that one?
No, I didn't.
So basically, Smith comes into the zone down the left side. He's got a lot of speed. He goes wide. Skinner knows there's not much time left in the game, so he comes out to challenge. He's outside of his crease on the near side post, and he's quite a bit outside the crease. Smith gets past him, throws the puck towards the blue paint. Leon Draisaitl's back checking. Leon Draisaitl's in the crease. Puck goes behind Skinner, comes towards the crease, and it bounces off Draisaitl. He puts it in his own net. They lose the game. So,
what?
Yeah, it was a heartbreaker for Oiler fans. But
so he just wasn't hugging the post?
Well, exactly. Yeah, he wasn't hugging the post. He came out and played it super aggressive. He was
like
Skinner was in the white paint.
He was knocked out of position.
No, Skinner was in the white paint because I think he realized that there was less than a second and a half left in the game. So he just figured, I'm just going to just charge this guy. And I mean, he didn't have an angle. Like if Draisaitl's not in the blue paint there, the game's over. The game's going to overtime. But Draisaitl's in the blue paint, and it hits him and it goes in.
That's
so
brutal.
It's a bit of a gaffe on. Some people are saying Skinner. I think it's more Draisaitl's fault in that one. But regardless, they came back and they win yesterday 3-0. They're up in that series 3-1. So another a bit of a surprise in that one for us. Both of us had Vegas.
Do you think Golden Knights have a chance of coming back?
I mean, against Edmonton, I'm not confident in Edmonton. I mean, they've done a really good job of shutting down 97-29. So, McDry, as some people call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Vegas, man. I wouldn't count them out. They're not out of the series yet. Not out of the series yet. There's still plenty of hockey left there. If Vegas goes and wins the next one, which they will be back at home for, it's a 3-2 series. I've seen it before. I mean, it can happen.
Where it gets dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to leave the Toronto-Florida series for last because that has been a great series. And if you're able to catch any of those games the rest of this round. I highly recommend it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So over to the East, Carolina, Washington. Carolina over New Jersey. We both had that one. It was obvious in the first round. There was nothing to really talk about in that series. New Jersey was just injured. No Jack Hughes, no Luke Hughes for part of that series. It was game over. Washington over Montreal. I think both of us had Washington in that one, so pretty obvious again. It's kind of surprised me that Carolina's up 3-1 on Washington.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that were I picked the Caps.
So did I.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by Carolina. I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised. They're a good team, but I really thought Washington was the real deal. We see this a lot with teams in the regular season. They have a great regular season. Look at Winnipeg right now. They're down 3-1 against Dallas. And they're the President's Trophy winners. And it just doesn't translate to the playoffs sometimes.
No. Very, very big surprise. I didn't think Aho would have been able to keep it up with how physical not Montreal, how physical the Caps are.
Yeah.
And who's the other guy who plays on the line with him?
It's Aho and not Kuznetsov. I'm blanking right now. Svechnikov.
I'm surprised those guys have been able to keep it up just because you think of the Caps. They're a big, mean, brute team.
Yeah, they looked like they were built for a good run. I mean, again, this series isn't over either, but...
No, but the Caps have been dominant. The
Carolina, it's really been a one-team race in this round. I mean, Washington did win a game. We'll see that series going back to Washington at 3-1. Washington wins a game. It's 3-2. Again, anything can happen.
You're just hoping if you're a Hurricanes fan that they close it out real quick.
Yeah. You don't want this one dragging on.
Yeah, totally. And just close it out as quick as you can and get some rest. And hopefully Toronto, Florida just drags it on until Game 7.
Yeah, Toronto, Florida. This is the series. Let's talk about round one real quick. Tampa Bay versus Florida. Both of us had picked Tampa Bay in that one, I think.
Big surprise.
That was I mean, I'm not so surprised Florida won. I thought Tampa was going to win that series. I mean, they're the defending champs, but I'm surprised it was 4-1. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And that was a nasty series. There was a lot of chippiness going on in that one.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Toronto, Ottawa. I picked Ottawa just for the memes because I thought Toronto was going to choke it again. But Toronto pulled that one out. They won 4-2. Kind of an easy series for them. There wasn't as nearly as much animosity between the two teams that I thought there would be, but maybe that's a bit indicative of the fact that the Senators first time in the playoffs in quite a while.
Yeah.
So they don't really have that rivalry.
They were just happy to be there.
Exactly. So Toronto, Florida, it's tied up at 2. It's the only series right now that is tied up at 2. All the other ones are 3-1. This series has been heated.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of physical play. The referees haven't been calling a lot of things. There's been a lot of controversy. Marner got elbowed. There was like a bit of a flying elbow to the back of Marner's head. That wasn't called as a penalty. There was no suspension or even review by the Department of Player Safety, which obviously pissed a lot of the Leaf fans off.
Yeah.
There's been some back and forth there. Barkov took a hit. I think it was at the end of the game. The buzzer had gone or was about to go, and Barkov took a bit of a cheap shot from behind and got boarded low into the boards in an awkward position. He's okay, though. But there's been a lot of that. And so at the end of the last game, Tkachuk's on the bench, and he's yelling over at Nylander because what had happened, the Barkov hit had just happened, and the buzzer went, obviously. And Tkachuk is standing there on the bench, and he's just yelling at William Nylander, who had no involvement in the play. He's sitting on the bench. But, of course, you go after Barkov, Florida's going to want to go after one of your stars.
Yeah.
And Tkachuk's pointing at him. He's saying, "You're mine next game. You're mine. Keep your head up," or something like along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And someone else on the Leafs bench is just laughing because Tkachuk had done this earlier in the series and did nothing about it. So, they were saying, "Oh, you're all talk. You're all talk." So Game 5 should be interesting. That's tomorrow night. I'm excited. I'm going to have that game on. Just because of how physical it's been.
Totally. That sounds like a heated series.
Yeah, if you were to watch one series out of the 4, that's the one to watch right now.
We last week, I think both of us picked the Panthers just off of how physical of a team they are.
We talked
But
about that.
surprise credit to the Leafs. They've been very physical as well. They've been able to keep it up.
Yeah.
And one thing, the Chicklets had someone on the other day. I forget who it was, but they were just talking about Cujo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a Leafs ambassador.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about how the Leafs this year just built a defensive core of the biggest fucking strongest guys that they could find.
Mm-hmm.
Just genuinely.
And also, like, durable. Like, you got Chris Tanev back there as well, a former Canuck, who just blocks shots like he's a robot. He's a cyborg out there, and somehow he's never injured.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, they're fun to watch, which kind of makes me feel dirty to say because I hate the Leafs.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're not a Leafs fan and you're Canadian, you hate the Leafs, right? Like, we got a Leaf buddy. They're just the most annoying fans.
We might have to come on to talk about his emotional trauma.
That's right.
After they blow a 2-0 lead against the Panthers.
That's right.
I will say the 2-0 start was surprising.
Yeah, that was surprising. In Florida.
In Florida, yeah.
Right? Was it? Oh, no, sorry. It was at home. It was at home.
Gotcha.
It was at home. Yeah, they're the top seed there. They're the top seed in the East, or besides Washington. But in that side of the bracket, they are. What are your thoughts for the or predictions for the rest of these series? I mean, obviously 3 of them at 3-1. Why don't you rattle off some predictions here, and then I'll kind of go through mine as well. Do you think anyone's coming back from 3 games to 1?
If anyone's coming back, it's going to be the fucking Knights.
I think so as well.
I'll pick the Knights. I'll pick the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes will close it out.
Yeah.
I think the Stars will close it out. And then out of Toronto, Florida, that's definitely the hardest pick.
I mean, obviously it's 2 games apiece. It's definitely the hardest one, but I think also both teams they've matched up well. Like, it's been so fun to watch. I want to lean towards Florida, but my brain is telling me to pick Toronto.
Yeah.
Which hurts me.
You asked me a week ago, I had happily picked Florida. I figured they outclassed them on every front.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the way Toronto's playing, I feel like you got to pick them.
Yeah, I do too. The only thing I'll say is Florida's used to these series, these rough and ragged, chippy series, especially if they drag on.
Well, they're built for it.
So yeah, I think Florida's got the edge there. But if Toronto can win Game 5, I mean, this Game 5 is massive. I think if Toronto wins Game 5, they win this series. And it's in Toronto, so that's huge for the Leafs and the Leaf fans. If they don't win Game 5, I don't see them coming back from 3 games to 2 to beat Florida. I think Florida wins one of the next 2. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's honestly like it's for all the marbles tomorrow.
Why do I feel like the over has been dominating these playoffs?
Yeah, it's been wild, man.
Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, it has. It's been crazy, dude.
Yeah. And they're still putting it at 5.5 for a bunch of games.
Yeah, like do you have the over-under for tomorrow's games?
Yeah, I can get them up.
Let's look at those real quick. We got Panthers and Leafs tomorrow at 4:00, and then Oilers Golden Knights tomorrow at 6:30. 2 big ones.
I know they finally put the fucking Oilers Golden Knights over under to 6.5 the other night.
They learned their lesson.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that was the one that ended 3-0 probably.
Oh, okay. Oilers tomorrow over under 6.5.
Okay.
Panthers 6.
Panthers Leafs is 6.
Yeah.
Wow, they put it at 6. So that's kind of crazy. You don't see that a lot. So there's a push in play there as well.
Totally. I'm gonna go with the fucking Oilers over.
Yeah.
And Leafs under.
Call me crazy. I'm gonna take them both over.
Both over.
Yeah.
Okay, my over/under is 10 into 32.
Okay, so 3.2.
And your over is 10 into 36.
So really not much difference.
No.
Couple bucks.
couple buck.
Interesting.
Well, we'll see how that turns out soon.
We'll see how that goes. Do you have a Stanley Cup final prediction? We should lock one in here now that we're down to the Final Four. I have one in mind.
Yeah.
I got one in mind.
I'm going to go with Dallas for the West.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the East, I honestly kind of want to pick the Hurricanes, but the only reason I'm not super confident on it is because they're just one of those franchises who's never able to do it.
Yeah, they're never able to get across the line, especially like recent history with them.
Oh, totally. Like you look past the last 20 years. Hasn't been a super fun 20 years.
No, I mean they had one cup in 2004, 2005, but you're right, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which feels weird to say.
Totally.
Makes
you feel old.
It does. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Dallas, and I'm going to take Florida.
Florida?
Yeah.
I might take Dallas and the Leafs.
Dallas and the Leafs. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
If it's Dallas and the Leafs, we'll have to get Tristan on here to talk hockey with us for an hour because
totally.
I mean, he'll be so jazzed. We'll have to get him on right before game 1 and then get him on when they lose.
Yeah, we'll have to get a play-by-play emotional reaction.
That's right.
We'll even live stream it for you guys.
We'll live stream it. That's right.
Totally.
All right, that should do it for episode 2 or 3. I guess 2. We'll call this one 2 after the technical difficulties we did have.
3 hours later.
That's right. We'll be back next week to talk more hockey and see if there's any updates in and around the league of the NFL. As always, I'm Matt Parnell, joined alongside by Lucas Fanslaw. That's been it for Couchside Sports. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good night.